I'm Dana, and today I really want to talk about the support that is offered for autistic people post-diagnosis. And obviously everything comes from my own experience. This isn't educating, I'm not trying to educate anyone, I'm just trying to be a relatable voice to the other people dealing with that kind of thing. So this is very much most applicable to late diagnosed people. I was diagnosed in 2019 when I was 22. So if you've got a kid that's just been diagnosed or something, this will probably be pretty useless, to be honest with you. But it's inspired by two different things that have happened. One of which is I made a video on TikTok about how much I just struggle with lots of daily things, and a lot of comments were like, well, just get support then, you have a diagnosis, so just get support. And I'm like, I wish it were that easy. And the second thing is that I received a letter, because I know that it's not that easy to get support, because I am consistently trying to get support. I keep going back to my GP, I keep talking to the job centre, I keep talking to anyone that'll fucking listen to me, saying that I am massively struggling with dealing with life, and I always have. I have not had, like, not to be like my life's so hard, but I have not at any point found life in any, like, not even easy, just like able to deal with, you know? I've just never found it to be something I have a handle on, and that's all I want. I understand that for most people life isn't easy, but I don't feel like most people's life is as difficult as mine is, because I'd be able to deal with things so much better if it was, you know? So after 5 years of asking for support, because the main reason for me in getting a diagnosis was that I'd been consistently diagnosed with various mental health issues. They kept looking into different mental health issues and then being like, no, actually that doesn't fit you, does it? And the one thing that did fit was autism and being autistic. So I exclusively went for diagnosis thinking like, this is the thing that's going to mean that I get help, I get support, something happens that means that my life is a little bit easier to deal with and I can exist as a real person, you know? So after 5 years, I've gotten a letter through from ASC Services Liverpool, and that stands for Autism Spectrum Condition. I was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. I've been referred to the Asperger's team multiple times and just not heard anything back from them. And now we have yet another term. And that's my first thing, is that I really wish that they would just decide on a term that we're using, because it's so confusing to have to keep researching stuff and trying to look up various groups and having to like deal with chasing up referrals when I don't know which of like the 7 terms for autism that it's going to be using, you know? Is it just autism spectrum? Are you just going for autistic? Are you still using Asperger's, even though it's a completely outdated and dead term? Are you going for ASC, ASD? Like, what are we using? So after begging for some sort of support for the last 5 years, the support they're offering me, the ASC service is commissioned to offer post-diagnostic support. We do this via an 8-week group course, 1 session per week for 8 weeks, which covers the following topics. The first week's introduction. So I'm already like, that's a 7-week course with an introduction, isn't it? I'm already annoyed, frankly. Then we discuss strengths and challenges of ASC, emotional experience of diagnosis, understanding and managing sensory issues, emotions and anxiety, well-being, social interactions, and boundaries, yours and society's. And it's just so frustrating, because I've known that I'm autistic for 5 years. I've been struggling with being autistic for my entire life. So finding out that I was autistic meant that I could finally start actually implementing things to try and help myself out. I really don't for 1 minute think that this is going to recommend anything to me that I haven't already implemented. And obviously this is coming purely from my perspective and my point of view and my experiences, but I can't imagine any late diagnosed person hasn't already looked into what it means to be autistic and the things that you can implement and ways to accommodate yourself, you know? I can't imagine for a moment that people don't already know about emotions and anxiety as an autistic person, okay? What we need to know is how to deal with them, how to regulate them, and how to actually cope. And I don't feel like 1 session is going to cover those things. You know, especially having like the first real session be strengths and challenges of being autistic, essentially. I know they're using ASC, but it means of being autistic. I know what the strengths and challenges are. I've been autistic the whole time. We've just, like, I assume this is realistically more so for people who have just been diagnosed and not people that are as far down the line of knowing they're autistic as I am. But even when you've just been diagnosed, everything clicks into place and you have this sudden, like, bigger understanding of why you work the way that you work. I don't think discussing strengths and challenges in a little group with other autistic people is going to be all that helpful. You know, you've already done that. We already know this stuff. It's so clearly something that's put together by neurotypical people that don't entirely understand what it means to be autistic, and especially late diagnosed autistic. And it's insane to me that so many things are being set up like this that so clearly don't have autistic voices involved. Now, for me personally, I was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder level 2, which means, I can't remember the exact wording they used, but I think it was like has significant support needs or something. Like, I have quite a lot of support needs. I mostly only manage to eat one meal a day, and even sometimes I don't deal that because I can't handle deciding what to eat, actually getting the things in to be able to cook that meal, actually doing the cooking. It's just so much fucking effort that I try to get myself to do it once a day. It doesn't always happen once a day. Tap water freaks me out. I feel like there's all sorts of stuff in tap water that shouldn't be in there, but bottled water always tastes funny. It always tastes a bit wrong. It doesn't just taste like water, so I just don't drink water. And finding out some way to like actually drink water would be great. Having a way to actually eat more than one meal every day would be great. Having that one meal, like figuring out a way to make that actually nutritionally sound in any way, so that it's not just fucking vegan chicken nuggets with some noodles. Like, I'm definitely not getting the nutrition that I need. I'm definitely not living a healthy life because of that. I go out and walk quite often. Like, I feel like physically I'm reasonably healthy for that, but I'm definitely not receiving the nutritional value that I need. The last 2 hours of every day of my life is spent trying to think about what I'm going to do tomorrow and sorting my routine and how things are going to work. Because if I wake up in a day and haven't done that like prep work, I don't know what to do with myself all day. And not even just in like I feel like a lot of people talk about like, oh, you know, like on a Sunday when you just don't know what to do with yourself, so you just watch some TV. I can't focus on anything because everything feels like it's the wrong thing to do because it's not part of my routine, but I haven't thought about what part of the routine I'm doing next. I haven't planned the routine. Like, I know routines are like, people think of it being the same thing every day. I can switch up the order in which I do my routine. I just need to do those things, but I don't have that many things. So if I haven't planned, like, I'm making a YouTube video, I'm seeing a friend, I'm going to go and do this thing. If I don't have that plan, if I don't constantly like plan everything out all the time, I will not have a good day. I will be extremely anxious. Everything will feel like it's wrong. Like, I can't deal with it, you know? Like, a group like this just does not consider the actual daily support that I need. And I'm quite tired of it feeling like medical professionals and the groups that are set up like this sort of expect to be able to explain to me like, you need to eat. And I'm gonna go, oh man, yeah, I need to eat. That's part of my well-being, isn't it? I should eat. And then I'll just magically suddenly be able to do it. Like, that's not how things work. Similarly, we're going to spend one group on social interactions. And it's like, I am 27 years old. I've had plenty of social interactions in my life. I'm aware of how they're supposed to go. I'm aware of the things that I'm supposed to say. But I get so overwhelmed by just being around people and having to do a social interaction that my brain shuts off and everything goes to shit. How are you fixing that in one group session? Like, in what way is this going to actually help me? I don't know how to pay my bills. I literally don't know how to do that. I very recently figured out how to pay my council tax, but now my email account has been blocked and I can't re-access it, so I don't know how I'm supposed to log in and check on my council tax. I'm moving house in like 2 months, and the way that my rent comes in, like the way that the date on which I get paid, is different to the date that I'm going to be moving, so I don't know how I'm supposed to have money to pay rent on the first day that I've moved into a new place, or like, I'm assuming that I'm supposed to pay it before I've moved into a new place. Like, I don't know how to do the most basic of like life things that everybody needs to be able to do. I can't do them. It doesn't compute in my brain. I can't process the information that's being given to me. I go into a complete shutdown. I get so anxious. I will have panic attacks. I will have meltdowns. I, as an autistic person, cannot physically or mentally or emotionally cope with those things. But because I can explain that, people expect me to somehow magically be able to. And it's like, no, I can explain it because that's what always happens to me. I can't control it, I can't change it, I can't stop it. That is a part of me being an autistic person. And, you know, there's not even anything to do with it, like actual life skills that we need to be able to survive in the real world. Like, that's not approached at all here. And it's like, I would assume that this is catered to adults. Why are you not considering the ways that adults need to actually be able to do things to survive? And also, where's the support for me to be able to do those things? Like, I currently have my best friend in complete control of like all of my like life admin stuff because I can't make phone calls. I will forget or just like panic and not be able to answer emails. I cannot keep control of those things. And if I didn't very luckily have a best friend who's willing to do that for me, I'd probably be in loads of debt. I'd probably be getting into trouble. I'd probably be doing all sorts of things that I'm not really supposed to do just because I don't understand what it is I am supposed to do. And that's why I'm going to the doctors and being like, I cannot cope with life. I cannot support myself. I cannot be a person. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, my life is so stressful all the time because I never know what it is I'm supposed to do. I never know what's going to hit me next. And I know that to some point that's how life is, but other people can cope with it and I can't. Like, you want me to be in a little group discussing understanding and managing sensory issues. I understand and manage my sensory issues. I've known that I'm autistic for 5 years. This isn't something that I need right now. And quite frankly, even if I hadn't figured that stuff out, even if I didn't know those things, they're not as important as me, you know, being able to eat, having a place to live, being able to pay to maintain that place. You know, all of that stuff is how I actually survive as a person. That is how I live on the daily when I'm not in a one session once a week for 8 weeks thing where we're going to discuss social interactions. And I'm also so tired of being welcomed into these groups. Like, I did a autism get into work group thing at the local job centre, and I'm so tired of being put in these groups where it's just like, I don't want to shit on anyone. I understand that most men are perfectly fine and nice and whatever else, but as someone who has a significant amount of trauma caused by men, I just get put into these rooms or these groups online or whatever. Or like, when I was first diagnosed and I went to a couple of local autism groups, I just end up in these rooms filled with men that are usually quite significantly older than me, and I don't relate to your lives. I don't relate to the things that you enjoy. They can be perfectly nice people, but I already have a bunch of trauma from men. I'm now just in a room with a load of men, and I probably just don't relate to them on any personal level. Yeah, we might have some of the same sensory issues. That means nothing. I'm constantly very annoyed also by the fact that so many autistic focused support things are done in groups. I'm sure it's some sort of budget funding thing, but you're really going to take on a group of people where one of our most well-known traits is that we struggle to socialise and interact and talk to people, and you're going to shove us all together and be like, speak to me, talk, say things in front of a group. No. It's difficult for me to talk to people one-on-one. There is no way in hell that I'm going to speak up in front of a group of 9 people. And all of the groups that I've been to that are like that are extremely quiet and awkward because that's how we all feel, you know? There's the odd time that you might get one really chatty person that's happy to talk and fabulous. I love it. I love that there's different types of autism and we're all in different parts of the spectrum and we're all different people. But most of the time you're just sat there in really awkward silence while this random neurotypical tries to lead a group talking about how you can fix yourself or whatever, and it's just extremely uncomfortable and completely useless. When I've brought this topic up in the past, I'm also quite consistently told to contact social services. I have contacted social services at least 3 times, I think probably quite a few more. I've constantly reached out to them and been I struggle with XYZ, I can't maintain my life, I can't do lots of daily things that I need to do. And I just get told oh, we don't really help with autism, or we're not really out in that area yet. There's just always a different excuse as to why no one's going to help me, no one's going to offer any support. And it's one of those things that I especially don't understand because my older brother's also autistic and he was diagnosed in childhood and he's had a social worker his entire life. I haven't spoken to him in the last 3 or 4 years, but last I heard he was 30 years old back in uni and had a social worker, and yet somehow whenever I tried to get a social worker because I'm autistic, they're just no, we don't do that, go fuck yourself. And I do find it quite frustrating that when I've brought this topic up, people seem to just, I mentioned at the start, people seem to think it's so easy and I'm just not trying hard enough. I just haven't bothered. I just haven't looked into it. The support's there. You just need to accept it. And it's no, I constantly reach out and try to get support I can. I've not had anything suggested to me in comments that I've not already attempted. It's just not there. And whether it's not there because it's underfunded, whether it's not there because I can explain myself quite eloquently a lot of the time, I can get my words out and explain how I feel and things, people seem to think I constantly have the oh, but you're so self-aware, and I'm yeah, it's real damaging, it's really not doing me any favours, so maybe help me. But they're just oh, you really understand your issues, and I'm yeah, and I can't fix them. And they're just so self-aware, and you're so pretty too, and I'm just I've had that happen so many times. There's just such a lack of understanding of what it means to be an autistic adult and to try to live as frankly an unsupported autistic adult, you know. I'm sure there's lots of us out there, but I do feel a lot of the autistic people I see content from, and a lot of the autistic people I've known have quite a strong support system from their family especially, you know. And quite often, even if their family don't necessarily support them in the way that an autistic person actually requires, it's often still the case of but you can live at home with your parents and not have to worry about paying bills and paying rent and getting things sorted at the right date for the right time and figuring out all these various bits of living alone unsupported. And I know from experience that sometimes living with your parents is horrible. I moved out at 16 for a reason, and it was better for me to move out. but there is also a degree of like, I don't want to necessarily even say privilege, but it's just a different situation that would make my life easier, you know? Like if I had parents that I could just deal with to live with, I would be a lot more, like I would have more of a handle on life and not be as stressed and anxious and terrified all the time. But it doesn't do any good to sit and be like, well, if other people have this and if I had that I'd do better, because like I'll have things that other people wish they had as well, you know? It's the way the world works, it's the way life is. We all just have to do the best with the situation that we're in. But that being said, I am really fucking struggling with my situation, so that's where we're rounding off the video. It's a really positive one. Oh. To be fair, you have had a good bit of positive content from me at the minute. Like it's okay for me to be a bit pissed off and annoyed and disheartened and disappointed by this, I guess. Just having a really bad time right now in quite a variety of ways, and it's really getting me down. But that is the end of the video, like I said. So as always, if you like this content, I do make videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays. So if you wanted to subscribe to see more, that'd be really cool. And you can also like this video if you want. And if you want to see more content like this, you can follow me over on TikTok, where I post like lots of just little like TikToks, obviously. But they're all autism focused. They're usually some sort of degree of autism focused. I enjoy TikTok. I do think it's quite fun sometimes. It can get a little down, it can get a little stressy, but like for the most part I do enjoy it. So follow me there if you want to see more. You can also follow me over on Instagram for like the fun, glamorous, I couldn't decide if I was saying glamorous or glamorized then, but like that Instagram's where I try to look good and I'm not just like I'm not doing well and everything's an issue. You know, Instagram's where I'm like, I had a day out. It's more fun over there. If you want to help me out financially, you can do. I have a Patreon where I post all of my videos a little bit early. It's not always a full day at the minute, but it used to be, and I'm hoping to get back to that. We're trying our best. So you can follow me on Patreon, and you can also donate to me over on Ko-fi if you would like. And there's never any pressure, you never have to. It's always going to be fine if you don't. I always want my content to be like accessible and free. So yeah, there's that. But also I do really, really desperately need to move out, because living here with the housemate that I'm with is absolutely horrible. He started shouting at me now. It's very reminiscent of living with my ex. It's a truly, truly deeply horrible time, so I'm saving up to move out. So any little helps at the minute, if you have it. There's never any pressure, you do not have to, but I am so fucking stressed and scared and anxious, so there's that. But I don't know, I'm like, so here's the pressure, but there's no pressure, but I'm putting pressure on. The pressure's on me. I'm just feeling the pressure personally. I don't mean to put it on you, there isn't any actual pressure, and because of that I'm gonna shut up and leave now. You don't have to give me any money, it's all right. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.